All right. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the September Community Webcast for Agile Central. My name is Caitlin Lamb. I work in product marketing for Agile Central, and today we have Don Young here with us. He is a principal consultant on the Presales team for Agile Central, and today he's going to share his expertise about dashboards and apps, specifically a quick guide for getting up and running with Agile Central dashboards. Like Chris said, we'll be using the Q&A feature to the right of the screen, so if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to type your question in there. We will be doing a live Q&A at the end of this presentation. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can live, but if your questions don't get answered, we will address them in a document and we'll upload them to the Agile Central community. Also, like Chris said, we'll post the replay and PowerPoint on the community. You can access those by going to the front page of the Agile Central communities and clicking on the Webcast icon, and those materials should be posted by the end of the week. So please share with your colleagues who may have missed this presentation today. And with that said, I'm going to pass it over to Don.
Thank you, Caitlin. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. If you can't, just let us know in the chat and we will make appropriate adjustments. So good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're listening in from. As Caitlin mentioned, my name is Don Young, and I'm a principal consultant, aka pre-sales engineer supporting Agile Central. I'm based out of the Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia area. So I've been with CA/Rally about 7.5 years. So the purpose of this overview is just to ensure people are aware of the capabilities that Agile Central brings to the table, specifically around creating custom perspectives or dashboards in the product. So you might be asking, why should I create a dashboard or why would I care? And the big reason is flexibility. If you've been in the Agile Central platform, you probably are aware that there is a lot of capability in the tool. Yes, there's probably one or two views or perspectives that you use frequently, but wouldn't it be nice to be able to establish just one spot that you go into every day to get your work done? Whether it's planning for the iteration or release, tracking your work, completing your work, tracking progress, or gathering data or doing data analysis. This is the purpose of having dashboards and setting those up, whether it's for your own personal use, whether they're team perspective dashboards, or whether it's for a manager, program manager, or a director. It really doesn't matter because you have full flexibility on how you configure these and set them up. The first time you log into Agile Central, you would have been presented with this perspective. So what the tool is doing is immediately taking you to the Home tab and the Dashboard tab and giving you the option to select one of 3 roles. The only purpose for that is to give you an initial dashboard configuration that we feel is appropriate for someone in that role. It's not declaring that this is going to always be your role, or you may also choose to say, hey, let me just start with a blank dashboard and create my own, and you have that option as well. But the key point here is it allows you to get a dashboard quickly populated. And guess what? After the fact, if you don't like some of the apps that are on that dashboard, you have full flexibility to modify that and change that around after the fact. So everyone has the Home dashboard view. This is a good place just to put your perspective on what you would hit on a daily basis. But this isn't the only place that you can put a dashboard, and we will talk a little bit more about that in a moment. When you first get into a custom dashboard, so let's say you choose not to take a pre-populated dashboard and want to create your own, the tool is going to prompt you to select a page layout, and you can select one of these 5 layouts depending on how you're going to visualize data. And then once that layout is selected, step 2 is to start adding apps. This is what will spawn the app catalog and gives you a laundry list of over 100 apps in our app catalog that you can draw from. After you do an initial dashboard, again, you can come back later by clicking on the gear icon in the upper right of a given dashboard and change your layout. So if you don't like the fact that you selected a single column view and you might want to go to a equally divided 2-column view, you can change that later. You can also launch the app catalog again from here to start adding additional apps to that specific dashboard. And as I've mentioned, the app catalog is the place to go for all things for applications. This is a long list of apps that have been developed and made available to the product. They've been vetted, and they're supported within the product that supports either individual contributors, team-level applications, program portfolio-level applications, or just general utilities. So all of these are available through the app catalog. And once you're in the app catalog, you have the ability to either scroll through the list of the available apps. You can click on the app to get a thumbnail presentation of what that app is about. The apps are categorized by various categories, so it gives you another mechanism to just kind of hone in on, well, what kind of apps might I be interested in based on how I'm configuring this dashboard. Or if you're looking for a specific type of app, so say you want to see burn down charts, you can type burn down in the search bar and it will list all the apps that have the word burn down in it. Once you select and find the app that you like, to add it to your current dashboard, you just click the Add App and it will drop it on the dashboard. Many of our apps in the app catalog also make the source code available to you. For apps that do have the source code available, you'll see the GitHub icon in the lower corner of the app catalog. Merely click on that, it takes you to GitHub, and now you can grab the source code. You might be asking, why would I want to do this? Well, there could be an app in the app catalog that you like, but you say, but it would really be more useful to me if it did A, B, and C instead of X, Y, and Z. Well, why not start with something that's almost there and tweak it? So for the apps that we do make the source code available, you have that option to be able to do that. Now, not all apps have the source code, so again, you can find that by looking in the app catalog, and if you see the GitHub logo with a hyperlink to go get the source code, that code is available. Once you add the app to your dashboard, the app catalog disappears, and now the app will be somewhere on your dashboard. It may not necessarily be exactly where you want it. No problem. In the app frame, there is a header bar. If you just click and drag that header bar, you can now reposition that app anywhere on your dashboard. Many of the apps also have an option to put it in full screen mode. So, for instance, maybe you have a Kanban board view app that's in a multi-column view, and rather than scrolling across the board, you might want to, for a short period of time, bring it up in the full screen view. So by clicking that full screen icon in the upper right corner of the app frame, you can do that. And then also in the upper right corner of the app frame is the settings gear icon. So each app has app settings that you can go in and manipulate the app further. Depending on the app, those settings can be different. So rather than go into details of what those settings contain, I'll leave that as an exercise for you all to do on your own. I will later on bring up an example of the settings on one of our apps. So when you create a dashboard, put it in context to answers to some of these types of questions. So from an individual, what's changed that's relevant to me? Or are we going to meet our commitment as a team? Do we need to adapt our plan? So we might be tracking against a plan, we're falling behind. So having applications in a dashboard can help the team and you as an individual inspect and adapt. As a Scrum Master, you might want information that exposes where there are blocks, where you might need some help, where the team needs some help. Or as an individual, work items that need your attention. So these are the types of questions you're going to try to be answering by setting up a dashboard. This is just a quick visual of a team-level dashboard that one might set up. So this is useful for doing team iteration review. It's exposing for the team, what the team's historical velocity has been, iteration over iteration. It presents their burn down chart for the current iteration so they can see how did we track against the iteration. There's also an app in the app catalog on scope change. So for the selected iteration time box, what items were added or pulled out of the iteration after the iteration started. So it's a mechanism to help the team see, hey, did we have to inspect and adapt midstream, and what does that mean going forward? Do we need to make some adjustments in the way that we plan as a team moving forward? So these are the types of pieces of data that you can expose in a dashboard to help the team focus on doing their iteration review. So great. You've got your own page, your own dashboard, but let's look at some other ways that dashboards can be useful to you and the organization. As I mentioned, you're not limited to the Home Dashboard tab. You can add dashboards under any of the prime tabs along the ribbon bar at the top of your Agile Central session. If you want to put a custom dashboard that's focused on planning, I would recommend putting that dashboard under the Plan tab. By clicking on Plan, you can then click the plus bar, and that will bring up a dialog to allow you to begin defining what that page is going to, what it's going to be. So here is a screenshot of that dialog box. You'd want to give it a meaningful, useful name. If you are a subscription or workspace admin, you have the option to share the dashboard with all projects within your workspace. If you are a project admin, then you would have the ability to share the dashboard with projects that you have admin rights to. If you're just a contributor, workspace user, you won't have the sharing options, but that doesn't preclude you from still creating the dashboard for your own use. And then at the bottom, there is the option on the dashboard page to either filter the entire page by iteration or release. Now, I will say that some of the apps in the app catalog do not honor that filter. Typically, it's the ones that already have their own time box filter selector built into the app. But for those that do not, they typically will honor the page filter. So this will allow you to create a dashboard that will show information pertinent to either the selected iteration or the selected release. Without the iteration or release filter selected, anything that's release or iteration dependent would then just default and show those items in the current iteration or release that's in flight. Once you're done with this selection, then you would just click Save and Close. It would create the page and then present you with, all right, what's the page layout going to be, and then to start adding apps, which would bring up the app catalog. So let's go through some examples of dashboards for different phases within the Agile Lifecycle. So starting with planning dashboards. This is a neat example that a team might use for iteration planning. So the page was created setting the iteration filter, so you have the option to filter the entire page by the selected iteration for apps that honor that. You then can bring in the iteration planning board, which actually also is available under the Plan tab. You also could leverage the custom list app, and I'll talk in more detail about that here later on. But in this case, we're leveraging the custom list to show team member capacity for the iteration for the selected iteration. And the custom list app is honoring the iteration filter that we've set on the page. So you're probably asking, well, why would you want to do this if we can already get to the iteration planning board in its own right? And the reason being is as the team starts dragging stories into an iteration to plan, the iteration planning board does track the overall team loading of story points against the planned capacity of the team based on their velocity. But what the iteration planning board doesn't show is individual team member loading based on tasks that they take ownership of. So the scenario would be the team says, yes, let's drag this story into iteration 7. They start adding tasks. They size the task in hours. They start assigning or team members start taking ownership of the task during planning. Now the team members can look over at this team capacity perspective and say, based on the number of hours I've declared I can commit to the team for this iteration, this is how many of those hours I've loaded up. So now you have the ability not only to manage the overall team's commitment based on points, but also individuals' commitment based on their available hours. So this is a good example of where you would want to leverage a dashboard over and above information that you already have in the standard iteration planning view within the tool. Another element of planning, team planning, is being consistent and estimating. There's an app in the app catalog for story and defect estimation. So it's a board view where you have the option to go in and declare what are the columns going to be, what are the labels on those columns going to be, and what are the underlying point values. So this allows the teams to consistently estimate work relative to previous work they've done based on previous experience. So a team could create a plan, estimation board, dashboard just for this purpose. Now, with the ability to share a dashboard with individual projects or teams in the tool, different teams could have their own estimation board perspective if they desired. So let's say you've got shopping team likes to just have 3 categories to bucket into, but maybe the architecture team likes to be a little bit more refined and might want to have 5 buckets that they can bucket into. So by creating dashboards for the teams and sharing just for that team, it gives you that flexibility. Moving from planning, let's move into some tracking perspectives. Again, we've got a dashboard that's leveraging something that you already can get under Track Iteration Tracking, and that's the Iteration Tracking app. It's the same perspective, but in this case, you might want to combine this with other information in context. So this allows you to do that by creating a dashboard for tracking, drop the Iteration Tracking app on it, and then other pertinent information that you want to keep a line of sight to in context without having to jump around in the tool. From a Scrum Master's perspective, they would probably want to keep an eye on how the team's tracking against their plan vis-a-vis the iteration burn down. Also, quick visibility and any blocked work. So they can see, do we have any active work in flight that blocks have been raised, and can start focusing on helping to get those blocks removed. Also, you could leverage the custom list app. Again, in the bottom left corner here, using custom list app, we can have that filter to show tasks that are not assigned to individuals that are aligned to work in the current iteration. So we got open work here that needs ownership. So the Scrum Master can help make sure the team is staying on top of that work. And then any planned work, stories or defects where those stories are not yet complete for whatever reason. It may or may not be an issue. And in this view in the lower right corner here, you can also expose, are there any open defects against the story? Do we have test cases that either haven't been run or have been run but had been marked as failed. So now you can focus on the red. So red is not good here. Again, another example of how you can have a purpose-built dashboard based on either for an individual or for a role. From a program perspective, in Agile Central, we support the concept of portfolio items. So you've got an initiative, a big initiative that's going to span multiple releases, and it's a high visibility initiative. So why not set up a dashboard that brings focus to that initiative? What we are showing here is a single initiative where in the center, we're showing all of the features that line up to that initiative so we can keep track on progress of the feature work to that initiative. And then for specific features rolling up to the initiative, we've dropped in a burn-up app and a cumulative flow diagram app focused on a specific feature so we can more closely keep an eye on the ball for that feature. Another mechanism to use a purpose-built focused dashboard to get the information on a regular basis that you need to keep the business rolling forward. And we don't want to forget our friends in QA and test. In a pure Agile team, your testers and QA should be integral members of the team, but they have specific things that they want to keep their eye on. So useful for QA to have their own dashboard. In this example, we're showing where we're using a custom list focused on stories that don't have any test cases created. So these would be stories planned in the current iteration lacking test cases. Perhaps a problem, because how is the team going to validate that they've met the acceptance criteria? As an individual tester, there's a My Test Cases app. So this will show test cases that are assigned to the current logged in user. And there are other examples of test information that you can expose on this dashboard. I wanted just to bring attention to some catalog apps of note, something that's worthy of further investigation on your part. So if you go into the app catalog, one of those apps is the Enhanced Velocity Chart. And why this is useful is it not only shows the accepted user stories for the past 10 iterations for the current scoped project or team, but it also, based on the shading of the green on the bars, you can visually see were those points accepted before the end of that iteration, were they accepted after the iteration, or if you have a gray shaded area, those plan stories were never accepted. So now you can look for trends and the team's planning into their iteration time boxes and their ability to get work accepted. And is there anything that needs to be done about that? Also, the Enhanced Velocity Chart is going to show consistency or lack thereof in the team's ability to get work completed that they've committed to iteration over iteration. Another useful app, and I actually just referred to this on a previous dashboard example, is the Incomplete Stories for Current Iteration app. So this is a pre-built app saving you from having to go in and create a filtered custom list that focuses on stories that are planned in the current iteration that have not been moved to accepted yet. And along with those stories, it lists the defect status, the test case status, and the task status, and who the owner is. So if there's any red in this view, in one of those columns, you know who the owner is and who to go talk to. You also can click in on this. So if I want to see what's up with the red bug on the test case on this one user story, I click on it and it'll bring a pop-out where I can see what are the defect or defects and what's going on there. Likewise for the task status and the test case status. The customs. We actually have 3 apps in the app catalog prefixed with custom. custom URL, custom list, custom HTML. I'm sorry, we've got 4 apps, and custom board. Custom URL is a means to put a URL reference to external information that then could display within that app's frame. So, for instance, maybe you have a Word document out in SharePoint somewhere. As long as there's a shareable link available, you drop that in the custom URL app, and now it will actually display that Word document within the app, saving someone from having to go out of context, out of the tool, and go find that document. Similar for a web link to a web address. Custom list, this is the app that is, at least I use quite frequently. So it's an ability to bring in a list of focused work items, be it user story, defect, portfolio item feature, etc., and associated columns that you can configure. You also have the ability to create filters, so you can look at specific work items that meet specific criteria and the data about that in one perspective. And I'm going to show a little bit more about the custom list here momentarily. Custom HTML. This is the app you use if you are to the phase that you're either developing your own apps for Agile Central using our App SDK and leveraging the Web Services API, or, as I'm going to point out here shortly, pulling apps out of the Agile Central community site. What you do here is you're able to go grab or copy the JavaScript code for that app, and you just drop it into the settings for the HTML app, and now that application will render within the custom HTML app frame. And then the last custom is custom board. So in essence, it's the list view and a board view. And that's the screenshot we're showing here. So you have the ability to for instance, I previously showed the storyboard estimation app, which is already a pre-configured app. If you want an estimation board for portfolio items, that's where you could use custom board. That way, you now can have an estimation board that's focused on features and the feature preliminary estimate. These custom apps give you a lot of flexibility to frame your dashboards to radiate the appropriate information that you need based on either you as an individual, your role in the process, or an Agile ceremony. So let me just run through some tips and tricks that I have learned over my years of working in Agile Central. I've already mentioned every app has a gear icon and settings where you can go in, and depending on the app, there are certain settings that you can configure for that app. One of those settings is maybe you don't want the app on the dashboard following the scope of your global project setting. Maybe you want that app to always display information for a specific team. Well, you have the ability on most of the apps to be able to pin the app to a specific project in Agile Central, as an example. Here is an example of the app settings for the custom list app. On the settings, you can modify the title of the app. As I mentioned, if you want to pin the app to a specific project, you can do that, or you can leave it on the default, which would be to follow the global project setting in Agile Central. For custom list, you also have to tell the list app what is the work item type it's going to be focused on. Is it going to be story, defect, task, portfolio item feature, portfolio item initiative? Whatever it is, that will be the structure you see. Now, the custom list app does show hierarchy. So if you select the top level type, focus type to be portfolio item feature, it'll show features at the top level. But if there's stories and then tasks underneath that, you can expand that out and see the full hierarchy within that list. The query box is a mechanism to refine what information about that work item type you want to display. and I'll show you some examples here momentarily on using our query language. And then for many of our newer apps, including the custom apps, there is a control bar. By default, the control bar is turned on. But once you've got your app configured to display the information you need for the context, the work item type, the columns, filters are working appropriately, if you come back to settings, toggle off show control bar, now you can buy yourself some more vertical real estate within that app by collapsing the control bar down. On the previous slide, I mentioned custom queries. So here's an example of, in the right, of various queries that you could build up. You can see some of these queries can get pretty gnarly if you let them. To learn more about using queries and apps and some of the other contexts in Agile Central, there's full coverage on that in our online help. And you can see in the lower left hyperlink to app queries. So just search on app queries or queries and online help and you'll find this. I also advise, if you're going to be using the query language, to also visit the Web Services API online help. Not every field on a work item is queryable. And those that are queryable, not every query operation is available. So rather than get frustrated trying to gen up some complex query and continually getting parsing errors that it can't parse the query, make sure that you're using the field appropriately. So you don't have fields in your query that can't be queried, or you're trying to use a query operator that field doesn't support. Now, many of our newer apps, including the custom apps, have advanced filtering available. And this is very useful because now you can move away from having to write queries and put queries in the app settings. With the advanced filter, you have the ability to just point and click. You can either do a quick filter by as an and of various fields. You can do it as a search. Or if you want to get advanced and build up a complex Boolean expression, you can do that by opening up the advanced filter, adding fields, and then the filter match can either be all, which is and, any, which is or custom. So custom allows you, each field that you add into this selection that you want to query on would get a number. And then you would just build up the numbers and the various Boolean expressions with parenthetical statements to get the filter that you are looking for. With advanced filtering and the apps that have that, now you can do the same thing you used to do with the query language without having to write query language. Once you've gotten this set up, also once you've selected your columns for the case of the custom list that you want to display and you're happy with it, you can go back into the app's settings, hide the control panel, and this all will collapse up and fold up. And now you've got the full vertical screen real estate to work with. Now, as I mentioned previously, if you're an administrator, as you create a dashboard, or even after you've created a dashboard, you can go back and share that dashboard either with the entire workspace or specific projects. But if you're just a workspace user, you can't share. But let's say you have a dashboard that you like that's been shared, but you would like to manipulate that and make it more for your own use. You can go in the dashboard page and clicking on the dashboard gear icon, you can copy that page. So now it creates an instance for you that you can go in and manipulate the page. This could be useful where the administrator has a dashboard with a custom list with some complex filters on it, or an app that's got a complex query language in it. You can take a copy of that page. Now you have those same queries for yourself that you can then manipulate and expand as appropriate. You can set any page as your start page when you log in. So if you always have a dashboard that you land on when you log into Agile Central, and you're getting tired of having to go in and not only select a page, but hey, I'm also going to a different project than what it's defaulting me to, you can make those your start points. So when you log in, it always goes there. The way you make a dashboard page your start page is by clicking on the main drop down along the ribbon bar that your page is under. Click the little edit pencil and then go to the gear next to the page that you want to set as your start page, and then you can see set a start page. Once you do that, every time you log in, that is the dashboard that you will land on after login. I mentioned the Agile Central community apps. You can get to those on GitHub, and there's the URL in the bottom right. You can also find this through online help. This is a community in GitHub where Agile Central hackathons, where apps have come out of those that have been deemed to be pretty useful, get placed. Also, Agile Central customers can submit apps that they've written themselves to be considered to the community. There's some minor vetting of the apps before they get posted, but it's not a full shake, rattle, and roll that you would get with a supported app. And speaking of supported, that's another caveat with community-based apps, is they are supported only to the extent that the contributor will support them. Meaning that if you're using the app, you're having problems with it, if you open a support ticket with CA, they're just going to say, that's a community app, we can't help you, go back to the contributor for that app. So that's the only caveat there. But I would encourage you to take a look. There are some really useful apps out there that are worthy of trying out and seeing if it can help in your environment. And as I already mentioned, if you do grab a community app or you've written your own app, you just take the JavaScript, copy it to your clipboard, and you drop it into a custom HTML app on a dashboard. And then in the settings page for the custom HTML app, you just paste that JavaScript in the HTML section of the custom HTML app settings. Labs. This is something fairly new within about the past year. And this is a mechanism for Agile Central product engineering to expose some apps that are being considered perhaps to be GA'd into the product, but they want to get some feedback first and see if it's gonna stick. And the way we're doing that now, and this also is sort of moving away from the community that Agile Central used to use to expose that, is to make them available in labs. The way you get to Agile Central Labs is through your individual My Settings. So click on your little icon in the upper right of your Agile Central session, go to My Settings, and in the My Settings view, you'll see Labs in the far right in your ribbon bar. By clicking on Labs, now you'll be presented with a list of the labs that are or could be available to your subscription. And I say could be because when a lab is first posted by Agile Central, it's first up to your subscription admin to say, hey, do we want to make this available to our users in our subscription? And you'll notice here the bottom two labs are not selectable by me because my subscription admin hasn't turned them on. But once the subscription admin has turned them on for your subscription, I still have to, as an individual, have to come in here and say, yeah, I want to try this out, so turn it on for me. Once you turn it on, it now will become available. Labs could be additional apps in the app catalog, or it could be some functionality within Agile Central itself. I would encourage you to take a look at your labs, try them out, give feedback. So if there's something about the lab, they say, hey, this is nice, but it would be great if it did X, Y, and Z. Give us that feedback. So come back here and you can use the feedback button to give feedback. Also, if the lab is just, a piece of junk, this is useless, why did you even bother to put this here? We want that feedback too. You know, we want the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, caveat with labs is they are experimental. They don't fall under our normal support level agreement. However, through the feedback tab, the developers will keep an eye on this, and they will listen to feedback. And if there's a problem that they can fix, they will attempt to get it fixed. Also, you're using the labs at risk because if the labs aren't getting much use or it's deemed this is not the direction we really want to go, someday they might disappear. So there's no guarantee the labs will always be there or will move to general availability in the product. So, you know, just be aware of that. Server-side subscription custom apps. So we've gotten a lot of feedback over the years that, you know, there are a lot of good custom apps floating around out there. We've talked about Rally Community. Internally, customers have written apps. But administrators have always said that it's tough to have to explain to our users how to go in, drop a custom HTML app on a dashboard, go in, copy the JavaScript, and paste it in the HTML. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just make those apps available at the subscription level? And guess what? We listened, and that's what we're providing. So as a subscription admin, you can go in to your subscription settings, go to the subscriptions tab, and you'll see there's an apps sidebar that you can click on. From there, you can then add new. So only one person has to go copy and paste the JavaScript and put it into the app. Once it's in, now it shows up in the app catalog categorized under subscription apps just for your subscription. The other thing that the subscription admin gets from this perspective is they can see how much usage that app's getting. So on a regular basis, they can come in. If they find, well, I thought this would be a useful app, but we're not getting any utilization of that app. Is it because people just don't know about it, or it's just not useful? So it allows them to occasionally police the subscription apps to decide, you know, do we need to do some more internal marketing for this, or do we just need to get it out and clear up space? So coming to the end here, if you want to learn more, always visit online help. There's a section on customizing your dashboard, creating custom pages. There's a knowledge base, Scrum Team customizations, which talks about various dashboards that are useful for Scrum teams and their ceremonies. We've got some example dashboards for enterprise scaled Agile. And then more information on apps in the app catalog vis-a-vis extending CA Agile Central with apps. Visit the communities.ca.com website. There you can share information. You know, you can make requests for, hey, has anyone seen or developed an app that does XYZ? Or if you've got something unique that you've come across or you've developed and you want to share, you can do that there as well. And then just for a little bit of a plug for our CA Agile Academy, we do have Agile Academy, which provides public courses both on tool use as well as certifications. In October, we have a public Agile Central Power User class that goes into a lot more detail on apps and dashboards, custom views, filters, etc. These are the dates for that public class in Boulder. There's also a 15% discount. So if you want to sign up and you want to travel to Boulder, which is a nice place to go, I will add, if you use code ACC1715, you can get 15% off of that October class for the Agile Central Power users. We've also got certification class for Certified Scrum Master, Scrum Product Owner, Leading Safe 4.5 are also offered in the public venue. So definitely go to agileacademy.ca.com for more details and to register. And with that, Caitlin, are you on the line? Because I think Caitlin wanted to introduce you all to something as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Don, for sharing your expertise and providing some really great examples of dashboards and apps. and how you can really customize Agile Central views to your liking. So while Don's taking a look at the questions list and waiting for any last-minute questions to trickle in, I'd just like to share the live chat support feature brought to you by our friends from the Agile Central support team. So John Streeter, the support delivery manager, recorded a demo for us on how to use live chat support. And I will just share my screen now and share with you the demo. So sometimes there are cases where you'll have a quick question during your business day that perhaps doesn't warrant opening up an entirely new support case. So using live chat support is a great solution for these kinds of situations. So I'm just going to play that now while the Q&A rolls in.
Chat support is available for our Agile Central customers, and to access chat support, just go to support.ca.com or click the Contact Support link from Agile Central. Once you're there, chat support is available. Make sure that you log in via the Sign In button at the top right, and then click Case Management. From the Case Management page, the product that you last selected will automatically load, or you can just type in the product name yourself. Once the correct product is selected, then the chat button will become available when an engineer is logged on and ready to assist between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. at Eastern Time. So go ahead and click Chat to launch the chat window. After clicking Chat, the pop-up window will come up and you'll have to enter your name, your site ID, which should automatically populate, the description of the issue, say, this is a test chat. My phone number is, wrong. And I'm on a Mac, and then we'll request chat. Once the engineer accepts the chat, you can go ahead and chat about your issue. And the engineer will be happy to assist. Once you're done, you can click Save Chat to save a transcript of your chat, or you can go ahead and click End Chat to end the session.
Great. So now that you've seen that demo, I hope that you'll all try the chat support at some point if you have any quick questions during your day. Also, just really quickly, to access the materials, the presentation, replay, unanswered Q&A docs, you can go to the Agile Central community, and it's this webcast button right here. So when you click on that, you can actually see the replay materials from webcasts in the past, as well as any upcoming webcasts that are coming out in the next few months. And again, these community webcasts are for you, they're for our customers, so we want to make sure that we're delivering the value that you're looking for. So if you have any suggestions on topics for webcasts in the future, if there's anything you're interested in learning about, please scroll to the bottom and leave us a comment and leave us your feedback, because we really appreciate, that sort of input. Great.
Caitlin, Caitlin,
go ahead, Don.
We had two questions. If we want me to address those now, I can.
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
So the first one came from Vital, and he stated, if I write a query and pull the report and report module, and I will write 3 reports, he needs to pull those reports into the dashboard. Is it possible? So Vital, I'm assuming you're referring to, if you click on the Reports tab, and then on the right-hand side of Reports, there's a Custom Report. So there's not a direct way to pull those reports in unless you just export those to a static file, make those accessible through a URL, and then drop them into a custom URL app. What you could do, though, is look at trying to replicate that same information that you're getting from that custom report through either a custom list app, or if you're really feeling enthusiastic, you could actually experiment with our app SDK and write your own app. But a direct reference to those custom reports through an app on a dashboard currently is not available. I would certainly encourage you, if this is something that you have done a lot or have a lot of, or other people have done using the Reports, Custom Reports tab, and want to make those available on a dashboard, use our Idea Manager website, which you can actually get through the support.ca.com website, and post that as an idea or see if anyone else has posted the idea. But I would say, you know, first attempt, try to see if you can replicate that report using a custom list or another app using the advanced filtering capabilities. The next question was from Donna, and she said, I'm trying to update a Kanban board with a custom field for the swim lane, but I can't seem to get this field to display in the swim lane drop-down. Any ideas why? So the available fields in the swim lane drop-down would be any field that is of type drop-down list or Boolean. It can't be a multi-select drop-down list. It can't be a text field or a string field. It's got to be a single item, multi-drop-down or single drop-down list or a Boolean field. All right, so Donna is saying it is a drop-down. So assuming that field is marked to be visible in the context and is available in the project. So that's another thing with custom fields. You can create them to be visible only in certain projects. I think to be available for the swim lanes, it has to be visible to all projects. That being the case, if you're still having problems, I would certainly recommend opening a support case and see if they can dig into it a little bit more with you to understand what's going on. Okay, and you said, yeah, it's visible only to a single project. So that's probably the problem, because it's going to restrict it, because that dashboard could be visible to the other projects, but if those projects don't have visibility to the field, then it's going to make it impossible to render that field and adhere to the access rights that you've set up. Very good. Well, there's no other questions in the queue, Caitlin. So
all right. Well, thank you again, Don, and thank you so much to everybody on this call for taking the time to join us learning about dashboards and apps. Remember, we present new topics each month, typically on the third Wednesdays of each month, right here on the Agile Central community. So we look forward to seeing you again next month. So thanks again, and bye for now.